Hi there, welcome to our first episode of EngageU, TAR's podcast on how we educate, empower, and elevate our real estate professionals. I am Lisa Nutt, and I'm joined today with, no, that's not what I want to say. Today I'm being joined with Shawn Cote, our Director of Government Affairs, and one of our countywide endorsed candidates, Edgar Soto, who is running for supervisor in District 3.
I'll get started. Edgar, appreciate you being here.
Thank you for. I feel like I'm in my family room right now. It's pretty relaxing. I'm pretty chill.
Nice
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
For our members who don't know much about you yet, tell us a little bit about your background. What motivated you to run for D3 County Supervisor, and how you plan to leverage your experiences and your skills in that position.
So, I'm not a politician. I call myself a practitioner because I've been in education for over 28 years. I've been at Pima Community College for 28 years, and I was a middle school social studies teacher. So, education's been my world. But a few years back, I got involved in drafting a bill for the creation of a Southern Arizona Sports Tourism Film Authority. And that bill is focused on trying to bring economic impact through youth and amateur sports, film, and just that's going to bring good jobs, economic impact. So what I learned back in 2008, we were this close to having 5 Major League Baseball teams, spring training here in Southern Arizona, because we had, when I was part of the Pima County Sports and Tourism Authority, we actually had the Diamondbacks and Rockies had agreed to stay, and we're negotiating with the Washington Nationals, Baltimore Orioles, and Milwaukee Brewers wanted to get out of Phoenix. So we had a bill that was going to give us some sustainable funding, and it was I think Tim B had it, and he held on to it. The last day of session, Democrats walked out. There was a controversial bill, and our teams were gone. But had that not happened, you think about this: that we'd have 5 teams here. And that I-10 corridor going from Tucson to Phoenix would have been filled with business and industry. So I realized we're this close, and it's so important that we have people at the table, whether it's at the legislative level or the policy level, that have an idea how some of these statutes, some of these policies impact the common person. And so I was like, you know what, I could sit here and just kind of complain about why we don't have this or why we don't have that, or I could jump in and try to do something about it with the skill set that I do have. Also been part of the Flynn Brown Fellowship, Aspen Rising President, so I have a lot of information. I've learned a lot, and I've been here in Tucson my whole life, and for generations we've been here.
Nice.
Now, in full disclosure, Edgar and I know each other because we were colleagues at Pima prior to me becoming a realtor. And so now, like you, I care about education, of course, and this is part of why we're doing a podcast, but housing availability is of particular interest to us and our interest. So share with us your views on housing, the availability, and what you think you can do for us in Pima County.
Well, first of all, I want to honor you because you're an amazing employee there at Pima, and we were colleagues, and you were such a go-getter, and you went 100% advocated for our students. So I always kind of knew you were gonna move on to bigger things because of just your your enthusiasm, your passion for doing and learning and all that kind of stuff. So just want to honor you for that, because we were lucky to have you for as long as we did. Right. But on the other side, I have a 30-year-old son, Jonas, right? He's a recovery coach from Marana Health. I mean, he's making about 50 or so. I don't know, Jonas, sorry if I'm disclosing.
Well, that's about the median income, right? Between 45 and 55,000 is our median salary.
Well, he Ubers also, so it's probably over.
And it hasn't changed in 20 years.
Yeah.
And this factors in now to I'll call it a housing crisis, right? Because we have a lack of availability. We have salaries and wages that stay where they are. We have rising interest rates. Right? So all of that comes together. And so Jonas is struggling.
We're just trying to, find him a place. And he's looking at some places. I mean, he qualifies for about 230, and we're trying to find some places. But when I was 22 years old, I bought my first house. I was a middle school teacher, but I was able to buy a house, which is entry-level type house, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And that's kind of where I've learned just earlier, like entry type housing, right? A condo, a townhome, a multiplex, something that we're not renting, we're actually owning, but it's like an entry level type house, and they're just not out there, right? And a lot of places, I know in Sacramento particularly, that they've been able to reduce their rent, their cost of housing, because they have a supply. And I just got back, my youngest son just graduated from University of Mercy in Dobbs Ferry, New York. And I go around and look at all these really cool buildings, condos, townhomes. I'm like, why can't we have that in Southern Arizona? I mean, we've got to, of course, be good stewards of our land, right? We have a beautiful, majestic Sonoran Desert, and I've enjoyed it for a long time. But we can get creative, we can get innovative, because everybody deserves to own a home, right?
No one will agree more with that.
Yeah, and I gotta get my son out of my house. So yeah, that's another motivation.
You want your space back?
Yeah.
You touched on sustainability a little bit. Obviously, a big reason why a lot of us live here is the Sonoran Desert. So, share with us your perspective in balancing the need to create more housing supply and balancing with the protections of the Sonoran Desert.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do in my free time is I listen on to the Board of Supervisors meetings, which go pretty long.
Yeah.
But one of the things that, people's concern are a lot of these zoning laws, right? And I don't know enough about them, and I'm gonna, of course, continue to educate myself on them. But, are they applicable to this day and time? So we need to relook at some of this stuff and see, hey, does this make sense now? Because one thing I do know is growth is coming to Southern Arizona. It's beautiful, Vail, Marana, you can see it happening already. And we got to make sure we have the infrastructure, the housing, the supplies, the things that people are going to need, and do it in a strategic, planned way, not just letting it happen, right? So I think we need to continue to look at some of those zoning laws and codes that we have, and things that we're doing, and see if they're applicable to now. And if we need to adjust some things, that's what's great about our constitutions, our Arizona, it's a living document. We can adjust things, right? So, but we have to go to the right people that this impacts, right? We've got to go to people that are around the situation.
With that growth has come homelessness and an increase in the number of unhoused in our community. What do you want to share with us?
So my student athlete, Engels Polanco, who is one of my favorite people in the world, had a knee injury when he was playing for me, ACL, got addicted to opiates, been in and out of rehab, in and out of homelessness, in and out of jail. And so his routine goes to Salvation Army for 30 days. They kick him out after 30 days, and he goes across the street to Tent City, which is a huge community. And I've actually talked to some of the residents of Tent City, I guess you would say. And what I've realized is that we don't have a homeless issue. We have a mental health and a fentanyl crisis issue. And so we've got to dig deep into that. Now, there's some cities out there that are doing some things that make a lot of sense. For example, sanctioned camping, right? Where you have the support around there. You have, lawyers, you have judges, you have healthcare workers that can help people get to that next level, which might be some small housing. There's some small housing out there that people are looking at to kind of get at this entry level, but that keep going until they can own a home. But we need to be compassionate about it. But one thing I also know is when I went to the site selector panel discussion at the Fox Theater, is that when people come here and they want to see if Tucson's a place or Pima County's a place that they want to do business, right, or make home, and they're driving down the street and they see all these tents and things going on, it doesn't put us on the top of the list. So we need to get this together. I know Colorado, they've been having a lot of success with the sanctioned camping. And some people say, oh, well, you're gonna invite people out here. No, that doesn't happen. That's, there's no data or research that shows that, but we've got to do something, and we've got to be humane about it. And the reality is this, there's some of these, some people unhoused that I've met that are just, they're in a situation they're not gonna get better. And we need to figure out something for them in a humane way to take care of them also. So, if we can look at best practices in other cities and what they're doing and what's working, and we can do this, help the unhoused in a compassionate way. But it does have to be housing first. I can tell you that, if you're trying to get a job or you're trying to get off drugs and you don't have a place to put your head down, it's gonna be a lot more difficult.
Complex issue,
yeah.
You touched on your background in education a little bit. I know you're an advocate for early childhood education. Can you share your perspective with us on that?
I'm going to be fully transparent, I wasn't always an advocate because I was like, there was a bond or bill or proposition, I forget which one it was, but it was for early childhood education. I'm thinking in my head, we got to get K-12. I was a K-12 guy. And so I started to learn more about it. And when I was at Desert Vista campus, I was in charge of creating a child care center. So I started to learn about early childhood education. And there's this famous economist, Nobel Prize winning economist, James Heckman, who says for every dollar you put in early childhood education, you get a $16 return on your investment, because you don't have to have as many support services at the elementary schools, high school levels, less jails, less prisons.
Prevention as opposed to intervention.
So
right?
for those of you who know me, I was an athletic director, baseball coach. We used to call it prehabilitation. You don't want to rehab, you want to prehab, and that's what we're doing. If you can get early childhood education, ages 0 to 5, where 90% of their brain is developed, and get them a good foundation, a lot of these issues we have would not only say they'd go away, but we'd be able to have a lot better grip on them, and we'd have a lot more success. So I'm so passionate about early childhood education now. You know, one of the issues right now though is that they're funded by the nicotine tax, right? And so not many people are smoking as much as they used to.
Or fewer people.
Fewer people, yeah. So but what the issue is also the vaping. The vaping doesn't get the nicotine tax. So the funding for early childhood education is going down. So it's like, we don't want to encourage people to smoke more, right. But we've got to figure out some of the vaping and other ways to fund this, because it is so vital and important that these, our young children, that they're in safe places, good schools, but they have access to early childhood education.
And that affordability, right? Because you've talked about wanting to contribute to a thriving economy, the economic development piece, people wanting livable wages. The cost of childcare is often prohibitive.
Yeah.
For some
well, good child
Correct.
care, yeah. And so that's why, like with Head Start, Child Parent Center, Campus that we have, our students, get to have quality early childhood education at no cost. So that's what's great about the programs that we have there at Pima Community College, because they have dreams of being, having a good job, getting their degrees, but if they're having to worry about their early child, their children's child care, it's going to be a lot more challenging. So we're trying to give access and opportunities, right? We want to give a hand up, not a handout.
Unfortunately, we can't all be baseball stars, right?
You might remember I actually directed an early childhood education initiative for United Way, and learned, just like you, all of the brain development piece, all of the 0 to 3 or 0 to 6 and those milestones and the importance of it. So I'm a convert and an advocate.
We got to put a lot of effort. We will, yeah. And what's interesting, and you might be able to quote this statistic better than I do, but they say that they determine how many prisons or jails they make by if people are up to their third grade reading level. I mean, that's so sad, and so I'm like, we need to put a lot of effort so everybody can read at the third grade level when they're in the third grade at that age.
Not only that, I know Head Start has programs where they also improve the parents' literacy.
Yeah.
So it's not just the skills for the children in their programs, but it's a fully family encompassed programming, because there is also data that correlates just the number of words that parents or adults in children's lives use impact the number of words and the quality of the vocabulary of the children, right? And so that's also why just talking to our children is really important.
And giving them access to different experiences, and that's the one thing I tell people: in order to facilitate change in a human being, 3 things have to happen: access to information, access to people, or access to an event. And we need to create those conditions and spaces so our young children, even our older, like you said, can have those experiences.
So how would you like us to remember you?
Well, if you can go to Soto, the number 4 supervisor.com, and you can see my website, learn more about me. And I'm always accessible. One thing, and you've probably known this, for 28 years I've given out my cell number to students, employees, and knock on wood, I have not had any weird 2 a.m. phone calls. So 520-904-1334 is my cell number. I want to be accessible. I've always been accessible as an administrator, and I think as elected officials, we need to be accessible to everybody, even people that don't necessarily think the way we do, or you know, we got to be able to have this kind of dialogue with everybody and anybody in a civil way so that we can solve the most complex problems out there.
You recently met with TAR's election task force who voted to endorse your candidacy. Talk to us about the importance of that endorsement and what it means to you in your campaign.
Man, I tell you, I mean, I was really happy about that. You could probably hear it in my voice when you called me to tell me, because, you know, I've been here all my life, and I care about our community, and you want to be known for somebody that is going out there and doing good, and for someone like the TAR to endorse me, and something that I think is so important is the ability to own a home. I mean, it means a lot to me, and I'm not gonna take that lightly, and I'm gonna do my best to represent and support our community and those organizations that are trying to do good in our community, doing good in the world. And so I'm flattered and I'm thankful, and it's just given me, it's put air in my tires, because I tell you what, going through this, and you know, Lisa, you have ups and downs, and you know, I had just had some, I don't want to say negative news, but just some stuff as far as like, oh, this didn't work out, and then I get the call, and I'm just like, put air back in my tires. I'm like, let's go, you know. So thank you for that, and I appreciate that, and I'll do my best to make everybody proud. Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
You also received the endorsement of the previous supervisor, Sharon Bronson. Talk about
Sharon. Wow, that was a interesting conversation, surprise, and I think Sharon's a lot like me in that she didn't have personal policy. She didn't have her agenda that she has. She wanted to go listen to people. You go out to Ajo, 3 Points, Arivaca, anywhere that District 3 is, they love Sharon Bronson because she would listen, and she would, you know, the way you serve unincorporated Ajo or 3 Points is different on how you're gonna serve, you know, city of Tucson. So you've got to listen and give people what they need to be successful. You know, one of the things I used to always say as an administrator, coach, athletic director is some of the best things you can do as a leader is get out of the way and get people what they need to be successful. And if you can eliminate barriers for people and give them a pathway so they can be successful, you're gonna be all right. You know, when I was the athletic director, I wasn't telling my baseball coach, hey, you should have hit and run there, or the tennis coach, you need to use these rackets. No, you tell me what you need. It's my job to get you what you need to be successful. And I want to do the same for the community. You tell me what you need in your community, and it's my job to eliminate barriers, obstacles, and give you what you need to be successful.
Nice.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, we thank you for spending some time with us today.
Yeah.
We're thrilled to have you as an endorsed candidate. We'll look forward to sharing this with our membership. And you heard from him how it is that you can get in touch. So check him out. Also, if you can volunteer, contribute to his campaign, make sure you do that.
Oh, we're canvassing on Saturday, so 7:30 a.m. I'll buy you breakfast at KG's, and then we'll go do some canvassing.
Great, because there's lots of doors to knock on.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.